I was asked to come today to talk a little bit about online testing, which is something that I decided to try this last time using Moodle and with Ray's help. It is so cool. I mean, it is cool. There are a lot of, I won't take very long and you can ask questions if you'd like. But one of the reasons that I wanted to try it is that someone I know at Arizona State uses it a lot. And my concern always was, well, how do you keep the students from sitting there and taking the test together? Well, you put a time frame on it, and you have a very good idea about how long the students will require to complete what you're asking them to complete.
If they study.
What?
If they study.
If they've studied. And frankly, I don't care if they have their book or their notes open, because they're not going to have a whole hell of a lot of time to be locating answers they don't have a pretty good idea about. And so we did that. There's a beautiful component of Moodle that I have not quite mastered, but Goddess Ray certainly is a master of, and that is a location where you can really assemble an endless number of questions, whether they're fill in the blank or their essay or their what have you, and you can pull from that pool to create tests or quizzes or whatever you want in any combination therein, thereof, and the like. So what I did, I gave 2 quizzes this last term, and I had designated, it was an hour-and-a-half long class, I designated 50 minutes that the students would have to log in and complete the assignment, and it was a specific 50-minute period. So they were all engaged at the same time.
So they were like 3:10 to 4 o'clock.
Exactly. Right.
Like
so even if 2 people were seated next to one another, they wouldn't have had time to communicate with one another to complete the assignment. A couple things that I really, really like about it, and that is, well, several. One, you no longer are struggling reading people's handwriting. and that was something that didn't actually occur to me until quite a bit after the fact. 2, when you go about grading the responses, you see, if you have 25 students in your class, you see everybody's response to question number 1 first, so that you scroll through and you're grading those responses only. So you have, it's much better to sort of keep in mind what where the bar is, and
so you curve it. Essentially, you curve it based on the results.
Well, no. What I do is if I'm reading question number 1 and I respond to the first student and I give them 25 points out of 30 points, I have in my mind, why did I deduct 5 points? So I go to student number 2 and I'm reading their response to question number 1, and it's far easier to be consistent that way.
You're not shuffling papers.
Like one long scrollable page. Yeah. You get to see, you compare all the different ways people answered that particular essay question.
Exactly, or what have you.
Of course, you have that option to see all of the question 1s, but you also have the option to see it just by the student and what they answered 1 through 25.
Right.
That was the way Sue did it.
Right. And the other thing that I very much enjoyed about it is that you write your response right there, and I tend to write more because in fact you're not scratching with your pen. The students can read it, and as soon as you are done grading, the students have immediate response. And I still have written into the class schedule that we're going to review the quiz on X day, and they come in. They've all seen all of the comments already. I have far fewer questions, far fewer challenges about why did I get X number of points. The students did better, and I don't know why, but perhaps it's the use of that particular medium. In fact, overall, my grades were higher this term than they have been in quite a while. And
this was in class?
Yeah.
Test? Okay.
Not necessarily because of the testing, but part of it, I think, is attributable to Blackboard / Moodle. I mean, once you sort of get more accustomed to using this, I'm doing wikis, I'm doing, for discussions, for groups, and all that other sort of stuff. And the students take to that medium, and, they understand it far better than I do. And it's just, they like having discussions with one another that way.
And you come to class better prepared for whatever, because you have started or continued a discussion from the last class meeting.
Right,
and,
right. Now, another thing, if I can just comment about the discussion component of the Moodle thing. I do, I have a relatively major group assignment across the course of a semester because it's a research methods course, and so I want them to be doing some things. And as we all know, if anybody who's ever done a group project knows that there are always complaints. Some students insist that, of course, they did all the work and somebody else, da-da-da-da. So I just inform them at the outset of the semester that I'm going to assess their group participation by virtue of their contribution to the wiki discussion, and that my assessment is going to be made up of timeliness, quality of contribution, and not just the number of contributions. But if you're just, saying, hi, whatever, ain't gonna cut it. And so I have not, since I've been doing that, I have not had a single complaint from a student about the grade they received for group participation. And that's the way, I deal with that. A student comes to me and says, well, but I'm doing all the work here. And I said, hey, great. You're going to get full credit. If you get an A on the assignment, that's cool. And other people in your group, they can't get better than C because they're not going to pull it on the group participation component.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious to the students too, especially if you use the different tools within a course site to monitor, again, participation. I mean, this is a big discussion, obviously, today. It's pretty obvious. There's no arguing it. They can see how much they've actually participated in it. Right. So, and they have the access to see how often they've been in there.
Well, and it's of no value for them to argue, well, but we met outside of class. I said, fine, I think that's grand. I want you to meet. You're going to have to meet. But I can't be there. So therefore, that needs to translate into what we can touch, feel, and see.
Can you talk about the kinds of quizzes that you use?
I used both. This time I had a combination of sort of fill in the blank and essay. And I did some things that had people using some mathematical stuff, because we do simple things like calculate means and things like that. And they have ample space to respond, and then you have space to respond, wherein you say, well, you got most of it, but you really missed this key issue.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yes, Sue actually had the combination of fill in the blank, maybe a couple multiple choice, and essay. And the way we got hers to work is it actually would automatically calculate the fill in the blanks, would automatically grade the multiple choice, and then the essay, obviously that has to be manually graded. So for example, let's just say you have a 10-question quiz. Each question is worth 1 point. The ones that were multiple choice and fill in the blank, that's pretty easy. That gets automatically graded. But you have 2 essay questions in there. So what will happen is the system will say, oh, this person got 8 so far, but then it's waiting for you to fill in, do they get that 1 point for question 9 and question 10 essay questions. And once you have added that 1 point for them, then their grade gets put into the grades area. That's what they see.
Right, and it adds up all the points for you. And so when you go back then to your list of students, not only do you see the individual grades, but you see the average and all of the rest of that. So
right. Right. And again, back to the whole cheating factor, besides the fact that it was a great method that you used to just kind of give them that very, it's a pretty tight time frame, but again, if they're prepared, it's
not dissimilar than what would happen if they came to class to take the quiz.
Yeah.
They would have to all be there at 9:40, They would be handed the quiz, and they would finish the quiz and hand it back.
Right. So that's a great way to kind of, I guess, hopefully diminish the cheating factor, but also within the system, there is a way to shuffle the questions and shuffle the choices within the question. So for even they're sitting right next to each other.
Beautiful, that's what I was going to ask.
Yes. Like A, B, and C, and D is not always the same A, B, C, and D.
Right.
I have
Yeah.
a question. Let's say you have a student who's sick that day
Mhm.
and can't even take it on whatever.
Right.
Are you able to?
You're able to open it up again.
Later.
We had an event, something like that, where I've forgotten what happened, but the student had car troubles or something or other and didn't log in the proper time frame. And he notified me, and then I just simply
You
was able to go
extended.
back and set it for a different time.
Oh, so, and you can do it individually.
Mhm.
Right, for that
Oh,
person,
okay.
exactly. And those people who have already taken that test would not be able to take it again because just depending on the settings of Sue, you could do multiple attempts, but, she did, okay, this is one attempt. They wouldn't be able to go in there anyway and take it again.
Can they show the answers to someone else?
Only if, no, they can't go back into it after they've completed it until it's been graded and released.
I see. So you have.
Right, you have
You've
complete
locked it.
control.
You've locked it.
You've
Okay,
locked it.
yeah.
There are some, professors that are very open, like, or they want it to be right after they have submitted their answers, that right away they get the feedback, right away they see what the correct answers are supposed to be. That's a very open way of doing it, and that's the way that students can go, print this out, or make a copy of it, and have it for themselves. But most of the time, that won't happen. Most of the time, professors will just kind of lock it right away after the student has completed it, and then there's a certain time that they open it so that you can see their own answers. So,
In the text I use for my intro class, I get a little, DVD, CD, whatever that has like a test bank that has,
Yeah.
100 multiple choice questions. Is Moodle compatible with kind of getting some of those questions over, or would I have to like cut and paste from that? You know what I mean?
That CD that you have come with the book
Mhm.
or something, that's something we should probably check on with your book's publisher, because there's definitely a key or a plug-in that publishers have with course sites, Moodle, Blackboard, and then that could be put in there.
Sure.
But if they don't have that built in, then it would unfortunately have to be a
It would still be like
copy.
a cut and paste, okay.
What Sue was talking about earlier was there is that pool function inside your course site. This actually will work really well probably for some people that like a program. So you could have like a pool in a course site of just questions, and just keep adding questions as they come to you. And again, just change up your quizzes every term, and it just builds and just keeps getting copied on over.
Would this be a place where students could do some kind of self-assessment, especially if there were like a Likert scale where they needed to rate themselves, like say on a team project? I have a thing where they have to assess themselves, and I'm thinking that this would be a good tool for them to do that, and then there would also be a place for comments or
Yes.
open-ended.
That's right. So Sue used it in quiz, but that could be kind of like almost survey assessment, and it's the same tool. You just pose it a different way,
Right.
and you just set a different types of options. Like maybe that it's okay to do multiple attempts for that,
Or have it open for a week.
for a week.
Oh, sure.
Exactly. It really depends on how you want to set it up, but that is absolutely available.
This is
Scales
another-
1 through 5, things like
This
that.
is another question. If you had teams set up,
Mhm.
is there a way that within a given, and complexity, within a given team, that there could be a self-assessment and the members of the team could see what each person, how they assess themselves and how they assess
Oh, sure.
others?
I would think you could do that in a wiki thing.
Yeah,
mean,
you could do it like that.
Yeah.
You could
Well,
set up your students, obviously, let's just say you have 20 students in a class,